My guests today are writer-director Victoria Warmerdam and producer Trent, and their multi-Oscar qualified short film, I'm Not a Robot. Now, in 2019, Victoria wrote and directed her short film, Short Calf Muscle, which has been showcased at over 150 festivals and garnered more than 50 international awards. Then in 2021, her short film, Snorri, premiered at the Oscar qualifying LA Shorts and again was featured in over 150 festivals and also garnered over 50 international awards. Now, Trent is the owner of Amsterdam-based Oak Motion Pictures, an acclaimed production company whose filmography includes multiple successes such as Villegas at Cannes International Film Festival in 2012 and the short film Hold On by Charlotte Scott Wilson, winner of the Oscar qualifying Tribeca Film Festival in 2016. Then the films The Wound and Holiday were critically acclaimed at Sundance in both 2017 and 2018, and The Wound also making the Oscar shortlist in 2018. But their newest short film, I'm Not a Robot, had its international premiere at Sitges International Film Festival, where it clinched this prestigious Best Short Film Award, making the film eligible for the 2025 Academy Awards. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Victoria Warmerdam and Trent and their absolutely brilliant short film, I'm Not a Robot, to the show. Welcome.
Hey, hello. Thanks for having us.
Hey, I'm excited about this because this is an incredible short film. So, Victoria, I want to start with you. Where did you get the idea for it?
Well, the idea for the film was sparked when I was trying to get through some captchas, but kept failing for like 4 or 5 times. And then I thought, oh, what if I, find out that I'm actually a robot this way? And I laughed. That thought made me laugh at first, but then my imagination took a darker turn. And I went to Trent with this idea, and we were like, why didn't someone make a film about this already?
Because we've all been there.
We've all been there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had to go through those things, and we get frustrated because you go through one of them, and you're like, okay, I clicked all the cars in the squares, and then it tells you to do it again, and then now you have to pick all the pictures of maybe it's a stoplight or a stop sign, and it's like the third or fourth time you finally get through it, and you're scratching your head wondering, I got all the answers right.
Exactly.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least I think I did. And I agree with you. Why hasn't somebody thought about this as a film? And it looks like you're the first.
Yeah, I think so, apparently.
Well, Trent, for you, what intrigued you about actually producing this film?
Well, the idea, of course, is very intriguing. But what when I produce a film, for me, the most intriguing is the person behind it, meaning the director and writer. And although I really like a great what if subject like this, what if I am a robot? I really like to work with Victoria because I also did her 2 previous shorts. So we know each other quite well. We are also a couple, so we also live together. We have a dog together. And it's really nice that we know each other so well and that I know how her mind works. And I exactly know what kind of film she wants to make. So as a producer, I feel almost kind of privileged to work with her because I can help her make the film that she wants in her head because I understand her head, even though it can sometimes take a dark turn in stories. But I really like that. We share the same humor, we share the same ethical values. So yeah, it's really nice to work with her. So it's not necessarily only the idea.
Well, like I said, I absolutely love this film. The more I kept watching it, the more brilliant it became. Because I know that a lot of audiences, when they go to a film festival, they see the film from beginning to end and they move on to the next film. for me, it's not that way. I'm looking at every element of the film, and I want to kind of start off with the opening scene because what I like to look for in a short film is, does every element in the film work? From the acting to the cinematography to the mixing, the editing, maybe it could be the music score. Does everything just work together? In this film, everything absolutely did work together. So as I was watching this film, I went back. I think it's probably the second or third time I was watching it, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, I want to talk about the opening scene where Laura is listening to the song with her headphones on.
Hmm.
And I was sitting there thinking, wait a minute, what is that song? And then I listened to the lines that are playing within her headphones, and it says, I wish I was special. And then you are so effing special. And I paused the film and I'm like,
I
okay.
know the line.
Yes, I'm like, okay. It's like she could have been trying to program her belief system and that she is just as human as those around her. Or of course, I know that she's also a music producer, so maybe she's listening because I noticed on her laptop she's looking at the tracks of the songs. But to start this film off in this opening scene, why did you choose that song to begin and end the film?
Yeah, well, I think I was listening to that song while I was writing the film, and it's "Creep" from Radiohead, but like a different version of it. And I thought this so fits her, like, you know, especially, when you might be a robot, to be special, like you want, like wanting to be special. That's such a human thing, you know to do. So I when I was listening to it, it was like, this is the perfect song for this film. So I think one of the first, I think, while I was writing the short, you were already like reaching out, to clear the
Yeah,
rights for this song, right?
yeah, yeah. And since it was sung by a Belgian female choir, and our co-producer is from Belgium, and he's into music. So I asked him to reach out to them to get their approval already as being the performers. So then we got their approval, and then of course we had to go back to the Radiohead people because they composed the song. But when we went through their record company and we already had the approval from the performers, it definitely helped us.
See, and that's what I loved about this opening scene is because this film, you put in multiple layers that they all connect. And so as the scene moves on, and when her coworker was telling her what captcha actually means, and it's just a system that can tell humans and robots apart. But then all the other coworkers turned around and looked at Lara like, you didn't know what that means, or
We
uh,
know.
yeah, or she's a robot, so she doesn't know what that means. And I found that both to be very interesting, even as a possible clue, as if Laura was a robot or a human. And that's the thing about this film. There's these little elements you have to pay attention to because they're guiding you through the story, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I love the fact that you watched the film a couple of times, because then you start to noticing different things.
Because
Yeah.
Victoria is a very precise filmmaker. So everything, every song, every sound, every cut, uh, everything that's in the film, even small stuff in the background, she pays attention to everything because that's just how her mind works. If it doesn't fit how she wants it to be, it doesn't work. And I really like it that you well, we're now only 2 minutes in the film, but you picked everything up. It's
Well,
wonderful.
well, here's the thing. As you know, I watch so much film, but this film really stood out. But I'm going to wait as to why it stood out in a moment, and we'll get to that because I want you to explain to me on a particular element here. But I really found it funny, and I went back, I think 3 or 4 times to watch Lara fill out that online questionnaire,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why did she click that? And so she said yes to the question, do you know any robots? And she said yes, and I'm like, and then I got to thinking, what does she mean that she knows robots? And then I got to thinking, is Dan a robot? And because there's elements there that you kind of wonder, and that's what this film creates some of the best mysteries I've ever seen. And but then I went down the list because because I'm sitting there trying to figure out, or maybe you've created this film where we don't actually figure it out. You kind of leave it open to interpretation, which I love short films that do that. So we never get a definite answer. But when she's on the phone with the IT guy, and then he says, you wouldn't be the first one to find out this way. So then I was going down the list and I started breaking it down. And I'm like, okay, let's look at this. So then one of the questions was, is your partner wealthy? Then I wrote robot, because only a wealthy person would be able to afford a robot. Then she's coming out of that bathroom stall and the handyman says something to her. And her first thought was, you want me to hang the door? And I went, that's a command, robot. And then I noticed, okay, wait, Lara smokes, human. And then was she having a bipolar episode? Then I got to thinking, I said, okay, human or clone? I went, let me add a third element here. Let's see, or clone. Then she threw up. And I went, robots don't throw up, human. And then I went, maybe she's not a robot. She was cloned. Because there's a scene in this film that I literally played over and over again because I was trying to see Dan's dialogue, Lara's dialogue and her reaction, and then Pam. And say, Pam is this silent spoiler in this film. So then I got to thinking, Lara may have died and Dan had her recreated and cloned her with her original DNA, which led me to think, wait a minute, is there another theory as to why she doesn't have early memories of her parents? So, and then of course I went, she bled, human or clone. But for both of you, this is why this film is brilliant filmmaking. You balance the clues in such a way that the audience still can't decide if she's a robot or not. Was that your intention?
Yeah, it was my intention. And it's funny because you are the first person who mentions a clone. Like that was, not even on my mind. Like because
But it sounds wonderful.
it sounds wonderful, and it could be like, but yeah, for me, she's like a very human robot. And that's why she smokes and she bleeds, and because I thought it was so funny and also kind of dark. Like, why would you make a robot that smokes? Like that makes no sense. Like an addiction like smoking is so human. And in order to make her human, I really based her on myself, basically. Like, how would I react in those situations? So yeah, she's a very human robot.
And you are the one who, if you are behind a computer and you think you have something, you will fill out that list because you're a
Yes, I'm a
hypochondriac.
hypochondriac, so that's based on my own experience doing those questionnaires. Yeah, very familiar with that.
I actually had fun not just watching the film, but literally play detective trying
Yeah.
to figure it out. But I actually felt that Pam was more of a robot than Lara was because she was very direct, not, very unemotional, a bit cold. And then And then going back to one of the questions on the questionnaire, so I'm thinking, well, then if she said, I know a robot, maybe it was Pam, or maybe Dan, but I'm kind of leaning more towards Pam just because of her demeanor. But this film, I mean, I can just literally rave about how great this film is. And how many days did it take you to film it?
We shot it in 7 days.
7 shooting days. Yeah,
Yeah, in Belgium,
yeah, and
mainly in the office, and then later on the parking deck.
yeah, 5 days in the office and 2 days on the parking deck. Yeah, and it's
Now,
fun. It's
oh no,
also
go ahead,
fun
Trent.
what you just mentioned about the robot. I was just thinking because why there is in the film, do you know any robots? And she says yes, is because, and of course, you don't have to understand it as a viewer, but you should pick it up a little bit. Is why she says yes is because she lives in a society where there are some robots. That society, that parallel society where she lives in, she knows there are some robots, maybe it's 1% or less of the population, and they can be acquired by the very wealthy people, which will be mostly men.
That's true. I never even thought of that, but that would be true. The wealthy, the ones that would buy the robots, would most likely 100% of the time be men. And
Yeah,
but she, I mean, Ellen Parren, oh my gosh, what an actress. I
I
also love the fact that by casting her, she has the look as to, because she has this very smooth complexion. And you're like, human, robot. And I'm like, this works well. So, how did you
Yeah.
come to cast Ellen?
Well, Ellen had been on my radar for a while because I think she's such a brilliant actress, and she has the ability to approach comedy with such seriousness, and I really love that about her. And of course, she is gorgeous, and she has that smooth complexion. I don't think she looks like a robot, but if I would order a robot, I would order Ellen, because she's beautiful. Yeah, and so before writing the script, I
Yeah.
asked her if she would be happy me writing the script for her, and she was. So I had the luxury of like tailoring the script especially for her. So it was just so nice to like use her range of like her abilities and her talents already in the script. And yeah, she did an amazing job. She's so good, and so she gives that character so many layers. So yeah, I'm super proud of her.
Yeah, I was watching the scene of her um, in the parking garage,
Mm.
and where Dan put her coat on her, and she has this very intense look on her face. She's frustrated, she's mad, but you could just tell right here the tension. I
Hmm.
mean, her acting was absolutely perfect in this film because you felt her frustration, you felt her confusion, her irritability with the whole situation. And but I don't think you could have cast it any better. You know.
me, me too. I'm very happy with her. She did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the elements of this film that I just fell in love with, and I'll go to Belgium just to see this place. How in the world did you find that building? Because the windows have this spaceship airplane type design, very mid-century modern. I mean,
Hmm.
I want to work in that building.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And that's what I love to create. Like I love to create these worlds that are like very, appealing to live in. And when we were looking for a building, and then the Belgian location manager came with this building, and we were like, oh, this is just the perfect place because what you said, it has this like mid-century vibe, like a 60s spaceship sort of vibe,
And warm
which
and
is really
organic.
cool. And therefore this location almost becomes another character in this film, and especially because it's all set in that office building, it was so important to us to find the right place. So yeah, we were really happy when we found this office, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the first time when the scout came with this office, because Victoria had given him some pictures and had given him a description, like what kind of location do you want, warm, nostalgic, bit of Art Deco, stuff like that. And he came up with the photos of this location, and we said, "Yeah, that's wonderful." He said, "Yeah, I know, but this is just for reference because it's way too expensive." But then he just showed it as a reference. And then a couple of weeks later, we tried to find some alternatives, but we still kept the first one in our head. And then,
Yes, it's super hard
yeah,
to
it's
live
super,
up to this
yeah,
location when you've seen it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we said, okay, but is it really too expensive? Maybe we can ask them, for a short film. And then he asked them, and it was not cheap, but it was not as expensive as he initially thought. So it was wonderful that we were able to shoot there because we were a short film and we didn't make a commercial, and that really helped.
Yeah, what I loved about the decor, it's very warm, and when you think of a film about about the possible of someone being a robot, sci-fi films are always very cold.
Exactly.
Robot films, there's always a coldness or a coolness to the look of the film, but you kept this one very warm, which is very human. So tell me about your cinematographer, because the film was beautifully shot. As I would pause the film and I would just look at it.
Oh wow.
Like
Yeah, no, but what
painting.
you said, like we drew inspiration from the nostalgia for retro and vintage design, also like as countering this fast changing sci-fi world, because usually sci-fi is what you say, like very cold, very clinic. And when I was talking about this, I think it was in the first conversation with the cinematographer Martijn van Broekhuizen. He said, "Oh, but maybe we can shoot it on film." Um, and usually DPs love to shoot on film, but I think in this case it really made sense. So we went to Trent to talk about it because of course shooting on film has financial consequences, but also consequences on how you shoot it. But you were also like really excited about it and
Yeah, it
and
fits the
and made
film.
it work.
Yeah.
And it fits the film so well because as I was telling, like going for that human approach, I think staying away from shooting it digitally and going back to that like human craftsmanship of shooting on film, that really fits that human approach.
It does, because I was sitting here watching that film over and over again, and I'm like, why does it look this way? Because I kept looking at it going, all right, this looks more like film, not digital. So then I decided to do a little bit of research and found out that you actually used CinemaScope. You used an anamorphic lensing, which I thought was an extremely bold choice for this film, and shot it in a 2:35 to 1 ratio. Why was that important?
Well, I think it was also like a financial choice shooting it on the camera we shot it on, right? It was shot on a Penelope
Yeah.
on 2 perf, right?
Yeah, we shot it on 2 perf instead of 4 perf, which kind of makes the image go like this. If I explain it like someone who doesn't really know about this, but it also saves you 50% of the film, meaning 50% of the money. So if you shoot it with 2 perf, and 2 perf is like two holes instead of 4 holes, uh, yeah, you immediately shoot 1:2:35. But this is the technical explanation.
Yeah.
But
Now,
of
is it 16 millimeter or 35?
35.
35. Yeah.
35. The graining was incredible,
Yes.
and I kept looking at it, and this is why I want to go back to my original statement early on. This is why this film visually stands out? Because I've seen so many, and you've seen short films, they're always on the darker side.
Mhm.
This one has this warm brightness to it, but I'm probably going to have to give some praise to the colorist.
Hmm.
Also, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was really good, and he also really understood the material. And I think he was also doing some stuff with the grain. Like sometimes he made it a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but you don't see it, but you kind of feel it. And yeah, he's very
Yeah, he
good.
just really worked with the material
Yeah,
material that was already there. Like he didn't want to change the look, or like he was really like celebrating this material,
yeah.
which was really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good thing when you shoot on film. Then there's always this, whether it's a colorist or a DP or a focus puller, there's always people who are like 35 millimeter nerds, which I think I mean as a compliment, uh, because they really want to work with that because it's a craftsmanship and you feel it in your hands. And then they have people that they want to learn how to shoot on 35. So you have this enormous amount of people behind you that are really rooting for your film and for your material, and it's really wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at the same time, it's a technical experience that they have that
Yeah,
you get for free because,
yeah,
and that's for me,
you do.
it's really nice and easy to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it
yeah,
helps the focus. And it helps the focus on set.
yeah. Oh, and every filmmaker I've ever talked to that shoots on film, every single one of them said the exact same thing. Everybody is far more focused because many times if you're shooting on film and you have a very tight budget, you want to get those shots in the first time and no more than the second time if you have to redo a shot because
Yeah,
film can be expensive. But it is this technique for this film that sets this film apart from every film I've seen this year. There's only one other film that I know of that was shot on 16 millimeter in both
Ah.
color and true black and white,
okay.
and it's based on the time period. So this is what I want to ask you because there was something else that caught my eye. And I noticed it more in the parking garage because I noticed the coloring, the lighting, it was just done so well, but it was also done a little bit differently. But there was something I have to ask you about it, and it may play into the story and it may not. But whatever you did, I fell in love. So I noticed because I'm a car guy. All the
Yeah.
cars in the parking lot looked either to be before 1989 or before 1980. Only the Mercedes SL in the background had me wondering which time period. But with all the other cars, I basically looked at it as before 1980. Was that done on purpose or just a coincidence?
This is just a coincidence. Like you are definitely a car guy, but we were just looking for like cars within that palette before a certain time, also to like bring those vintage vibe from the interiors to the parking lots.
It was
Yeah,
yeah, it was the fact that the Mercedes is from maybe 1980 or 81 or 79. That was definitely, we don't know about it, but we
about the
no,
years.
but we
Yeah,
did ask for cars from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, because
We
I
did.
noticed the 911. Because the 911, because my brother had one just like that one. So I know that it could be anywhere from 69 upwards to maybe 75 because of
Mhm.
the chrome window treatment. And the Volkswagen Beetle, which looked brand new. so, but so that now makes complete sense. You even brought the cars in to match the decor of the building. That's just brilliant.
yes, yes. And you must have noticed that the car that her car that he's driving,
the,
that's
the Beetle.
the Beetle is an electric car, right? Did you notice that?
I did not notice that. Now I'm
Yeah,
going to have to go back and watch it again.
you have to
Is
Yes,
watch
that
it
why it
again.
was so quiet?
yes,
Yes, which is really like it is almost distracting because you don't you don't expect that sound with that car. It doesn't match, you know. But I heard that, I think it was our composer who
Yeah.
mentioned that apparently there is this company in the Netherlands and they build old timers into electric cars. And I was like, immediately I was like, oh, but that's her character in a nutshell, you know. It's you know, the exterior of a old school human, or in this case a beetle, and then with the interior of a new, you know, futuristic thing. So you know, that's when I knew that we had to use one of those cars.
Yeah, and
I
then we reached out to that company who did it, and we asked him, well, how many cars did you do? I think he did 20 at the time, and he did have some touch with some owners, and he said, oh, we wanted. He had a white beetle, I think. I said, no, white is not the right color. We want another color, and then we came up with the blue beetle, which is actually called Blue. The beetle has a name. It's called Blue. And I reached out to that owner, and she said, "Yeah, okay, you can rent it for the days." And she was living in the Netherlands. She said, "Oh, but then I bring it to the parking garage in Belgium, and you keep it for 2 days. And when you finish, then you call me again." And she was wonderful. And the sound guy was really happy because, of course, the car didn't make any sound.
And you know, I didn't even pick that up because I was paying more attention between Dan and Lara's interactions, even though I noticed how brand new that beetle
Yeah.
was, but never paid attention to the sound. Because a lot of times, if you're watching a movie, sometimes you think, you know, in mixing, they just turn the engines down so you can hear the dialogue better. So that's all I really thought about it. But I love both the contrast and the mirroring of that car to who Lara really was.
Mhm.
And that's just one of those little secret Easter eggs that you find in some of these films. So that was a very, very cool move on that part. Now, you kept the same level of mystery of Lara from the beginning of the film to the very end. Now, the very ending scene when the credits start to roll leaves a lot to explore. What are some of the common reactions you get from the audiences that have seen it?
Is he a robot or is he a human? That's what a lot of them ask. And then our question back is, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. So I watched the scene, the ending scene a few times, and I'm like, this is tricky. And I'm like, wait a minute. So I went online and I went, what color is battery acid? And then I went, the only thing red that I would know of from a machine is usually transmission fluid. And I'm like, but transmission fluid wouldn't be in her head. And but if she's a robot, what type of, if there was a liquid that would
Mhm.
be brought forward? And I'm like, but but see, it's funny because I still looked at her like, is she a clone? Because
Mm.
Yes. So in,
here's what throws everybody off. Because at the end, when she opens up her eyes again, you
Mhm.
completely destroyed everything that we've ever thought who Laura was. So you keep us guessing even at that very moment, and that's why this film is so good.
But the funny thing is because of course, every time during making the film, during writing, there was this keeping the audience on the edge of the seat. Is he a human or a robot? Uh, but since everything in the film is being done like she's a human, everything, even when she has like a small plaster on her finger, you don't really see it, but if you are on a big screen, you see it once.
like a band-aid.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
band-aid. Victoria really wanted it because you're like, oh, that's more human-like if she's hurt. And for us, well, if she is a robot and she lives in the world where robots do exist, there are some of them. Then of course these robots have to be human-like as hell. They should be really good. They are not the robots we know at this moment, but it will be the robots that we might know in 5 years or 10 years, or even scarier, maybe sooner. They will bleed, and they probably have a heart, and they have a heartache, and everything human. They have emotions. everything human
And
about it.
that's what I kept thinking because, with robotic research today, they're trying to teach robots as they gain information and gain information in their surroundings, then they start forming their own thoughts, their own
Yeah.
opinions,
Mm-hmm.
their own mindset. So I kept thinking, I'm like, okay, if she's been a robot for a while, she is going to start appearing more and more human as time goes by. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of like, it's kind of like when they've created the computer bot. Bots are the same way. Bots go through the internet and they start creating things and they start acting as if they know more than we do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Lara, part of me's like, okay, as time went on, she became more and more human like. And the only one that would truly know if she is or not would be Dan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, or
And then,
Pam is the secret robotic sales rep.
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, but this film again, it stands out. But one of the things that astonished me, and I have not seen this very often, not only are you Oscar qualified, but you've been qualified 4 times.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Around 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite
It's
astonishing. I mean,
yeah.
last year when we won Sieges, it was the beginning of October, and we were like, and then they told us it was Oscar qualifying, and we were like, okay, we're Oscar qualifying, but that's really soon. And he said, no, it's for next year. So we've been preparing for the thought since October that we were Oscar qualified for this year, which is really cool.
wait,
And
Oscar. I mean, October of 2023.
yeah,
Exactly.
the
Yeah. When
Oscar,
the film premiered.
yeah, the Oscar
Yeah.
season goes until the 31st of September, and then everybody who wins after that date is qualified for the next year. And Sitges is one of the first Oscar qualifying festivals
For the next round.
for the
Yeah.
next
And,
round.
and then the other three that you won were this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. I mean, like, okay, so you won the first qualifier in October of 2023.
Yeah.
Does that help you to get the film into other film festivals, knowing that you're already qualified? Do the film festivals take that into account?
I think so, but I'm not sure. I never asked, but it's a good question. Next time I'm going to ask it to people. But after that, we've been to a lot of Oscar qualifying festivals. We didn't win them all, but I think they look at Sitges or Leuven or Flickerfest or all these Palm Springs, Holy Shores. I think they look and I think it gives your film a lot of credibility if it's been on an Oscar qualifying festival. If it's already won, I think they may watch it with more intent and more seriousness. Maybe, I don't know, but at least it. Uh, they are not like, oh, it already won an Oscar qualifying, let's not select them. That's not how it works, because we've been selected after that for quite some many. So
Yeah. Now, are you already in the Academy portal?
Yes, we
yeah,
are.
that's
Yep.
also the good thing. We were already there, I think, the end of August, on the portal, which was really nice. And we had a screening, our first screening last week in LA.
Live
A
screening.
live
Yeah.
screenings. There were some members, some people from the Writers Guild, from the Directors Guild. So people got to see it on a big screen. We got to engage and talk with people about the film, and also people asking questions. Is he a human or is he a robot? What are those old cars doing in the parking deck? Stuff like that. But it was really nice to get their reactions, because people were really, really engaged and enthusiastic. It was really, really nice to talk to the audience like that.
It must have been. It's got to be very positive with the response because there's just so much in this film to look at. But of course, the storyline is the utmost importance in any film, and then all the elements added to it. But this film, I'm Not a Robot, I cannot think of one thing that I would even change in this film
Oh wow.
Good.
I
because
I
I
could
lo-
think of many things, but
because because this film it stands out. Not only is the story great, and it leaves the ending to be open to interpretation, which is the way I think some short films should end. And the cinematography, the coloring, that's what sets this film apart.
thank you so much.
Shall I tell you a small story about
Ooh.
the ending? Uh,
Yes.
like behind the scenes. Uh, During when we had the ending, of course, everything comes down to do the visual effects work or not. So it was quite exciting whether they will make it. Well, in the end, they do work. But since we've had some people who were saying, "Is he a human or a robot?" We did think of answering that question. And in the visual effects, we even tried to give her like a effect in her eyes,
Like a robotic effect.
like a
Yeah.
robotic effect. And the visual effects guys made it, and we watched it on the screen. And some people were like, "Yeah, yeah, that's cool. You should answer it. You should give them an answer." And then we thought about it, and we were like, "No, it just doesn't feel right to do that because we've been treating her as a human. She's a human for us, or we treating her as a human. So then, in the end, to kind of tell through a visual effect thing that she's a robot, in the end, we didn't decide to do it. The visual effects people have been working on it for 2 days."
I'm glad you didn't do that.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine, and I'm glad that you are saying that. We also are very proud. We are very happy that we didn't do it, but it's nice to have tried it.
Oh, yeah, because even when I mean, you could have literally when she opened up her eyes, you could have had the screen go black, and
Yeah,
then the only thing on the screen says, "Is she or isn't she?" And
yeah,
then go back to the credits, because then it ends up planting that seed even deeper into the audience, because they're like, I look, because of the questions you get on this film, the best part of this is nobody can figure it out.
Hmm.
exactly. And the best part probably is that if you've seen the film and you're walking in the audience, it could even be, is that person maybe a robot? Because robots do look like humans, and that is really interesting. We had one screening where there was someone. It was like a friend of my sister, and we were talking about it, and we were talking about, is he human or is he a robot? And then we were talking about society, and do you think that this already exists, or is it going to be like this in 5 or 10 years? And he was saying with a stale face, like, no, I think they're already here. I think in this room, which was around 100 people, I think there's one, maybe two people who are robots. And he was really serious.
Oh my god.
Because
Yeah.
of that film, he thought, no, I think society is already at that point.
Yeah, we are getting to
Yes.
that point, and it's a struggle, because we've all seen all of these types of robots online, and some of them are really scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so uncanny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Now,
Yeah.
Victoria, let me ask you, with this film, were there any particular challenges, or was there a difficult scene that was hard to do?
I think shooting on film in general was amazing, but also very challenging because it was my first time shooting on film. And, beforehand, people told me, okay, but, because it was also a matter of like the connection between the monitor and this
Yeah,
particular camera.
we didn't have an HD connection.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
what I was seeing on the monitor was like crappy VHS. Like it was like I'm super about the details. I'm very big on details, and I wasn't seeing like there were no details on the monitor. So that was really challenging. Also the fact that, of course, like there's a limitation to shooting on film in terms of like at some point it's like, okay, but do we have enough material or not? And so I really had to make like sharp decisions on set, which is, I think, always good for a filmmaker. but at that moment I wasn't really happy about it. So that was really really challenging. And I think also, the stunt was also
Yeah,
quite a challenge,
yeah,
because originally I wanted to like film the stunt part, like her deciding to jump off the building, like do it in one shot. So we had to, on the shooting day we filmed it before lunch, and then just right before lunch the stunt coordinator like was talking us through, and he was like, "Oh, but we can't do it in like one movement because it had something to do with the ropes. Like they were not long enough for the stunt women to do the run." And at that moment, I had to walk away because I really wanted to punch the guy in the face, because it was also like maybe the timing of telling me this just before lunch. I was already a bit hangry, and it was not necessarily his the message that he was bringing, but more like the timing of it. So I walked away, and then I walked back because I had like, okay, it's very childish, like to walk away from your own set, not very professional. So during lunch, the DOP had to like, he really came up with the idea to
yeah,
shoot it this way, and I think it works really well. So, but that was quite a challenge also because you only know if the stunt works when you do it in post. Like on set, you really have to trust on other people saying, okay, this is going to be
it's going to be
right.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was, up until the end, that was quite
Yeah, because then
nerve-wracking.
then of course the visual effects guy, they stitch together these four shots, and then they remove the cables, and then they deliver it to you, and they say they deliver it to in like a first version, which is 80% of what it is. And if visual effects is being done 80%, it doesn't work. Visual effects only works when you do it 100%. And so until that moment, it was like, yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah,
And
we
if
we
that
know.
ending doesn't work, you have no film. So that was really
Yeah,
nerve-wracking, but I think,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, because it's the ending that makes this film,
yes.
and to and yeah, and that's the thing I've learned from other filmmakers. Most of the ones I've talked to that have used real film, it was their first time,
Hmm.
and but a lot of them used film over digital because of the time period that they were filming. You know, so yours is based in, let's say, 1980, and I've had others where they were based in 1985, and of course there's some based in the 1940s. So they all move towards using actual film to get an authentic look. And you did that with this, even though this is about the possibility of a person being a robot. You didn't push this so far into the future, and it to me it just made it that much more believable.
yeah, cool. That was exactly the intention.
Well, you definitely pull that off, and ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this: this is a brilliant short film. I'm not a robot. This is a multi-Oscar qualified film, a very rare feat to accomplish. Now, I've loved everything about this film. The cinematography makes you feel as if you are watching a full-length feature film, and actress Ellen Parren gives a stellar performance as, is she human or is she a robot, Lara? Now, her emotional confusion and frustration can be seen and felt throughout the film. I can't wait to see more of her on screen. This is a film in which you must keep a watchful eye and an ear to everything that happens to Lara. There are clues of her origin, or maybe those clues are there to throw us off track. Either way, I'm Not a Robot is a brilliant ride, and I will be the first in line if this film becomes a feature film. Now, the ending is open to interpretation, and that's the beauty of a short film. Let the audience decide how the film ends or how it should end. This is a film that creates conversation long after the film is over. And Victoria and Trent, I want to thank you so very much for bringing this film to me to watch. Absolutely loved it. And much success to you on your journey to the 97th Academy Awards.
Thank you so much for having us and for this lovely conversation.
And thank you for watching the film. I think you've seen it more than 3 times. During talking, I think you've seen it 5 or 6 times, which I really, really like. And we are developing a feature film around this, so I hope you will be there. I count on you.
I want to be there. I want to be on the front row to see the full length feature film, and you got to film it on film. Bring all those cars back and then lock that building down, because that is a perfect location. I mean, I can still picture that building in my mind. I'm like, I want that corner where Lara was sitting. I want that to be my workspace.
I know, me
I
too.
will send you a link of the building so that if ever you are in Brussels, in Belgium, please visit that building.
Oh, I will. I want to take pictures. I'll be there taking selfies. So I think
Okay.
that works for me. But again, ladies and gentlemen, when you have the opportunity to see I'm Not a Robot, you're going to be blown away just like I am. And if you are a person that loves film, you love filmmaking, and you love learning about film, this is a film in which you can learn a lot to make you a better filmmaker. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for watching. You'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.